Hey, listen, build your own decks. Don't watch this video. Build your own decks. Don't go build your own decks.
Hey, buddy, watch this.
Yeah, I really think you should build your own decks on any day one of a new meta. It's way more fun that way. But if you just can't, you don't have any idea what you want to do, you're looking for some inspiration. Well, I got some spicy decks in this video. Like this deck from Firebat, I think this was the most recognized deck from the Theory Crafting live stream event a lot of us did. Firebat cited a really high win rate with this list. Now, granted, not against the best competition, but nonetheless seemed like the strongest deck from that early live stream. And of course, it's just a typical mid-rangey Highlander build, but with all of the crazy new powerful Demon Hunter cards. It turns out when Demon Hunter has so many good cards, you need to squeeze them all into a list. Highlander's a great way to do that because you get maybe 25 unique Demon Hunter cards instead of only 15. And even though some of these might look like they come from disparate archetypes, it turns out there's still a lot of little cross synergies across 3 or 4 cards across these little small packages that you can do some great stuff. So obviously Zephrys and Dragon Queen Alexstrasza are there to anchor the deck, but you've got other great legendaries like Kayn, Sun Fury that allows you to get some pressure, Maiev there to answer your opponent's stuff. Altruist can make all kinds of crazy plays. A lot of cheap cards in this list as well to empower things like Altruist, some big Outcast style cards. It just does a little bit of everything and can beat kind of any sort of deck as a true mid-range option. And I think best of all is just that you get to play all these new cards in one deck, as opposed to trying to, play 3 or 4 different Demon Hunters. You kind of get the full Demon Hunter experience right off the bat. I know Demon Hunter is going to be everywhere on day one. Probably a lot of people running this list, but at the very least, it offers some diversity in what we're all going to get to see and play against and anticipate. So I think a good list to get started if you can afford it from a dust standpoint, or if you just have a lot of these cards you open up in your packs, or maybe you got that Zephrys and Dragon Queen already, so you might, then this one's a great choice for any Demon Hunter loyalists out there. So next up here, let's take a look at Libra Paladin. I think this is one of the archetypes people are most excited to try that I've heard so far, utilizing, of course, all the new Libra package cards. Libra of Justice, and Libra of Wisdom, and Libra of Hope, along with Lady Liadrin and your discount cards with Aldor Attendant and Aldor Truthseeker. And this list that I've made here is complementing all of that with what I would call kind of a tempo pure Paladin package as well. So a handful of early game cards to give you some play early, to have things to buff and utilize, but also some solid mid-game and late-game options as well, with cards like Tyrion and Lightforged Crusader giving you some depth to go long. So another mid-range feeling list here that is noticeably absent of one-drops. That's unfortunate because Paladins just doesn't have very many options there right now, particularly in a pure Paladin list that feel very good. But still a deck with a lot of curve, a lot of long-term potential via Librams, but not specifically a control deck, which I think a lot of people have drifted towards with Librams. This is still in many ways a tempo deck that can create pressure, can race down opponents, but also has a lot of value on the back end, which is one of my favorite ways to play. So who knows what the eventual kind of real Libram Paladin will end up looking like, but I think this is a really enjoyable start for that archetype, and one you'll probably enjoy playing a lot on day one. Moving on here to the Shadow Council Handlock from Trump. From what I've heard, I think he's pretty excited about this list and about a lot of the cards, even naming something like Imprisoned Scrap Imp one of the best cards in the expansion, which really shocked me. I built my own Shadow Council Imprisoned Scrap Imp deck. Mine was a little bit more meme. This one I think Trump believes to be a little bit more competitive. It's got a nice core handlock package with the Valdr's Fellgorge, a lot of card draw and dragon synergies for those Crazed Netherwings and Netherbreath options, some Dark Skies, Abyssal Summoner. So, 20 cards here are probably exactly what you'd see in a handlock build from today, but it's complemented with the Shadow Council and Imprisoned Scrap Imp to, I think the idea here is basically you fill your hand up if you run out of things to do, if you need more value, more pressure out of your minions, you can drop a Shadow Council turn, a handful of maybe low synergistic things that don't have a lot of value anymore. A couple Mortal Coils are stranded there, and suddenly you've got a handful of big minions that can pressure in certain matchups and maybe push down some control decks. It just gives you that flexibility to get a lot of stats and a lot of value out of a big hand of cards that might otherwise not stretch as far, thanks to all those hand buffs. Now, I don't have a ton of confidence that this archetype or the Shadow Council package is really going to be super competitive long term, so I wouldn't invest a ton of dust in a deck like this and hope that it's going to be a tier 1 deck. It's possible, of course. Like, you never know what's going to happen. but I wouldn't take that risk just yet. Wait it out a little bit, as is really the case with all of these decks. Don't ever overcraft in the beginning of an expansion. But nonetheless, I think this is a really fun deck. I still think it's got a lot of meme potential. You'll probably have a grand old time with this one, even if you don't win a ton of games. And often that's all we really have to worry about in Hearthstone in the first place, just enjoying ourselves. And certainly Shadow Council is going to provide that opportunity. So next up here, another deck from yours truly. This is my No-Minion Mage. And of course, a lot of people have ventured forth building this list. There's a deck recipe one. I think Tice built a pretty cool one. This is my take on it that we found a lot of success with in the Theory Crafting live stream. And I think the important distinction between this and some things like the deck recipe deck are just having more value and more long-term potential in this list. I found that if you're not careful, this list can really gas out and not have enough stuff to do in the mid to late game, because it doesn't usually find a win in the mid game because you just don't have enough pressure, enough minions, enough chip damage, not enough burst damage either. So you need to start stretch things out and eventually overwhelm your opponent with resources. This list does that a little better thanks to things like the quest with Raid the Sky Temple, just gives you an extra card every turn. Amazing Reno can make some big plays. Puzzle boxes have some big opportunities as well, along with this, the new cards that fit really nicely into a deck that needs minions like Apex's Blast and Deep Freeze, the old card Power of Creation. So between that, discount often canter slow, you get a really nice long-term tempo advantage in essence. You get a ton of efficiency throughout the course of the game, but you can also generate lots of value. And I think that made this a really fun list. First off, it was stupid fun to play. Evocation had big moments. Of course, discounting all your cards feels great. Puzzle boxes, Renos, like the chaos and shenanigan levels are off the charts with this one, but I also think it felt fairly competitive too. So this might be a good first glance at a deck for you. It's also probably not too expensive, a handful of epics there, but still accessible to a lot of people, particularly if you open something like Evocation in your packs. So this one may not, again, be a tier 1 deck, but will probably be a fairly competitive and super duper fun deck. So next up here, we have a Theory Crafted deck from J. Alexander. It's a secret stealth rogue, fusing kind of the two newish archetypes for rogue into a single list on the back, of course, of cards like Shadow Jeweler Hanar and the new rogue secrets, Bamboozle and Dirty Tricks and Ambush. That is already a lot of extra cool things that can happen thanks to the Shadow Jeweler Hanar chain effects. And then Blackjack Stunner is just a ridiculously awesome, cheap sap. And then you've also got the new stealth stuff, Spy Mistress and Akama and Ash Tongue Slayer. So this deck can go really fast, really aggressive, really hard, but also generate some frustration and some value against your opponent as well with some of that secret package. So bit aggro, bit shenanigan based here with all these secret generations. But all in all, a deck that's probably just going to win games really quickly. And although J. Alexander hasn't been able to playtest this deck, I think he has a great instinct for Rogue. He plays it all the time, really foremost expert in Rogue. So I think if you're going to trust a Theory Crafted list, this is one that looks like a great fit. And if you're a Rogue player who wants to go fast and win games and farm some wins early on the ladder on day one, this is probably an option that's going to be fun and very, very successful. And there you go, folks. That wraps it up for this video. 5 cool decks to try. Now, as I said before, build your own decks. Maybe use these as inspiration. Take some curve fit, some archetype ideas, but go build decks that you think are going to work. Build a fun OTK. Build the deck you've just been most excited about, right? Craft that one legendary card and go for it. Don't follow things like this to the T. Make the ladder fun and distinct and unique on day one. I don't want everybody playing the exact same Demon Hunter list. So please don't use this as a prescription, the exact recipe. Use it as inspiration and build on these ideas. Don't just straight up copy them. That way we can all have a little bit more fun early in the Ashes of Outland laddering experience. That said, if you have any questions about these decks, other deck lists you're really excited, feel free to share those in the comments below. I'm sure the community here will have a lot of insights for you and give you feedback on decks, or maybe try your deck out and make it famous someday. That said, thanks much as always for watching, and until next time, game on.